In today's video, I'm going to show you how I transformed what was a mess of a corner into a beautiful oasis for my tropical plants. So make sure that you stick around. The issue I had was it was time to bring in the plants for winter and my space was a wreck, and so I decided I needed to transform the corner behind me from the mess that it was into the beautiful plant oasis that it is now. So hang out with me and I'll show you what I did. Well, hello makers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Patty. I go by Pattymac Makes everywhere online. And today in this video, I'm going to show you how I made the cutest little table runner project. What's great about this table runner project is you can customize it to fit your space how you want it to go. So you may be asking, how did this project come to be? Well, the project came to be because finally turning into fall here in Virginia Beach, and I have to bring the plants in. And I have a lot of plants, and I rearranged a corner over here, and I decided that's where I would put a couple of the larger plants. The light is good in that corner. I think they'll do well, and so that's where I want to put them for the winter. The issue is that the furniture that I'm putting them on top of, it's kind of an expensive piece of furniture, and even though I put glass on the top to protect the surface, I didn't want the plant pot or the stand to be in direct contact with the glass because I didn't want to scratch it. So the problem I was trying to solve is to have a barrier between the plant and the furniture. And because we're a quilting channel, I decided some sort of fun table runner would be my best option. So what do we need to make today's table runner project? For your tools, you will need a 6.5 by 24.5 inch quilting ruler, a cutting mat, a rotary cutter. You're gonna need a tape measure or some sort of measuring stick or something to measure the space that you want to fill. You're going to need wonder clips or pins. You're going to need a steam iron. You're going to want an ironing board of some sort. I highly recommend that you use the point turner. And this is a sewing machine project, so you will need a sewing machine, and I recommend that you outfit your machine with the 1/4 inch foot, and then later we'll use the walking foot when we do the quilting. The materials that you will need for today's project are as follows. You're going to want 3 coordinating fabrics. You will want some kind of quilt batting. For a project like this, I always recommend a fusible batting product. And that is because it's not as drapey as your standard quilt batting. And when I'm making something that is a table runner type of project, I personally really like the body that you get from using a fusible product. So you want fusible batting, if you can get it, coordinating thread, and then you'll need something for a backing. For your backing fabric, you can use coordinating yardage, or you can do what I do, which is to use old sheets or muslin. And for this project, I wound up going with a double thickness of the muslin for my backing, and I really like that. It's the first time I've tried doing it that way. I think that gave a really nice backing to my project, and I'm going to do it that way going forward. The muslin, it's just a plain cream fabric. It will go with anything, and you can get that in your Joann store on sale throughout the year, so just be looking for that. I have like 10 yards of it. I don't know why I have so much. I bought it for a reason. I know it was, I think I got it when the Joann's closed before they opened the new store, and so it was like, I don't know, $2 a yard or something insane, and then I got like 20% off of that. It was ridiculous. I got it for nothing. So I have a lot. So that's what I've been using on my table runner type of projects, the wall hangings that I do, anything like that where the backing is not quite as important. The steps that I followed to construct this table runner are super easy. First, I measured my space, so I knew how many strip sets I needed to make. I then cut my fabric, and what I decided to do was to have the print be the spotlight fabric in this particular project. So the print was the main, and then the other two colors were the coordinating pieces. Once you have your fabric cut, you will then piece it into strip sets. Piece it as you like. I decided on that center column to make it as a patchwork design, just to try something different, and I like how it came out. I wound up taking the strip set of the two pieces, and then I cut them and did them into the little checkerboard. I basically made 4 patches and then pieced the 4 patches together, and I think it looks beautiful. So you'll piece the project as desired and then quilt as desired. When I made this project, I wanted to use what I already had in my stash, and it was really easy for me to figure out what I wanted. A couple of videos back, I shared some information on how I went about matching these 3 fabrics together, and I'll link that for you in the corner, and I'll also put it down below. That is like my foolproof method for mixing and matching colors when I go to put something together. So what I would suggest to you is go to your stash, pick a print, pick any print. Make sure it has the color register printed on your selvage, and as long as you have that, go with that print, and then pick some things from your fabric stash that coordinate with those color register markings. It's a great exercise for mixing and matching fabrics, and because this is such a fun and easy thing to make, it's like low stress. Make this, enjoy it, and have a good time. Here are the cutting instructions if you want to make one like the piece that I made, and I will link the measurements below. They'll be in the description. For my print fabric, I cut 2 strips at 6.5 by 18.5, and then I cut 2 strips of the same print, 3.5 by 18.5. For the yellow strip, which you could call fabric A, I cut 3 strips at 3.5 by 18.5. And then for the green, which we could call fabric B, I also cut 3 strips at 3.5 by 18.5 inches. The first thing I did was to piece the green and yellow strips together, so I made those into strip sets, and then I cut one of the strip sets into 3.5 inch widths, and then used those widths to piece together the checkerboard pattern that you see. Piecing the short cuts together is what gives you that fun checkerboard. Once I had the strip sets done, I pieced the entire top together. Once the top was completed, I affixed the fusible batting following the manufacturer's instructions. And once that was done, I took the piece back to my cutting table, and then I used that large quilting ruler to square up the top. Once you have the batting affixed and you have your top squared off, what I did was to lay the top on top of what I wanted to use for my backing, and I just used the quilt top as the pattern to cut out the backing. It's a little bit of a cheat, but if you do it that way, you don't have to get into the measurements and all of that. You just lay the top out and you know it's exactly the same size. Once you have your backing cut, we're going to put the fabrics right sides together. We're going to secure the top and bottom together. You want to make sure that you leave a pretty wide opening, wider than your hand, because this is a large piece that will have to turn out. So leave a good sized opening to get your hand and the project right side out. Take it to your machine. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way around. Make sure that you backstitch at the beginning and the end of the stitch line, which runs all the way around the project. You'll want to take a little bit of weight out of the corners before you turn the project. It's always a good idea to just carefully clip those corners before you turn your work. When you take that weight out, you get a much sharper, nicer looking corner. Once you've clipped the corners, pull the work right side out, smooth it out the best you can, and then use that little point turner tool. Poke out your corners so that they're sharper and nicer. You also use that tool to then open up all of the straight seams. I run it all the way around all of the straight seams, and it does a beautiful job of just really opening that project up. Then just neaten it as best you can, and you will then take it back to your steam iron and give it a really good press. We want it to be just as crisp and flat as possible. You'll want to turn in that seam allowance where you have the opening. Turn that in and clip it together, and then when you go to the sewing machine, when you edge stitch, which will be our next step, the edge stitching will close the opening while you put that nice beautiful edge stitch on the project. So the edge stitching is not only decorative, I mean, it just looks really nice. It also will kind of hold that project front and back together. Once your edge stitching is in place, the last thing is to just quilt this project as you desire. I wound up doing a combination of straight stitches, and I threw in some decorative stitches. I also wound up using a really dark thread that was a very high contrast because I thought that would be fun. This is a modern quilt project, so I wanted it to have a really modern edge to it. And so I felt like that super high contrast thread just really popped off the page, so to speak. So I went with a decorative stitch that looks like a vine, and I just thought that worked so well with the concept of the project, which for me was to go with my plants. How do I like this project now that I've got it in place and I'm using it? I love it. I think it's fantastic. It does exactly what I wanted. I think it looks great. And this was fun to make. This is the type of a table runner that you can just bada bing, bada boom. It's completely done in an afternoon. It's very simple to cut. It's very simple to piece. And with that center strip, you can play around with that. So I went with the checkerboard, but you could do other stuff. With the center panel, you have some real creative flexibility there that you can play with. You could do the whole thing as half square triangles and then piece the triangles in to make all kinds of different shapes and designs. That's an option. So don't be afraid to play with that center strip. I think that's a really fun place for you to flex your creative muscle a little bit, get a little bit out of your comfort zone, and just try something new and different. I also found that putting the printed fabric on either end really was a nice way to finish out the look of the table runner. When I first designed it, it was just one rectangle of the print at one end, and as I looked at it once it was cut out, I thought that doesn't really work. That's not a good rhythm. So I wound up taking that wide strip, cutting it in half, and putting one at either end. So that's the project. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you will try making this. I think it's super easy. All of your cutting instructions are below. Just allow yourself to experiment and have some fun. In quilting, it can be incredibly exacting, and I am not somebody who typically likes anything that is precise, exacting, precision. That's generally not my strong point. So it is unusual that I enjoy quilting so much. All right, that's all I've got for you this week. I really appreciate you watching. I sure hope you enjoy the project. I hope you'll make the project. In the comments, let me know where you're going to put your custom table runner, and tell us all about the fabrics that you're going to use. It will be fun. It will be educational for all of us, and I love hearing from you. So, okay, that's it. That's the video for today. Thank you again so much for being here, for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.